sejahtera and good evening everyone. Welcome to a forum organized by Polytechnic Kuching Sarawak. We are asked to be here to witness our forum about important topic entitled which are 5 elements of valid contract. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Shannon Michael as your moderator. I would like to thank everyone for being here today, our honorable panels, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Our topic for today will be discussed by the well-known expert. On my right-hand side is Mariat Usen Benjamin. Meanwhile, next to her is Genevieve Kelly Burai. The first element is going to be discussed by Marian Benjamin. Okay, you should proceed.
Moderator, I will discuss about capacity. Under Section 11 of the Contract Act 1950, stated that every person is competent to contract who is of the age of majority according to the law to which he is subject, and who is sound mind and is not disqualified from contracting by any law to which he is subject. Capacity to contract means the legal competence of a person to enter into a valid contract. Usually, a capacity to contract refers to the capacity to enter into a legal agreement and the competence to perform some act.
Alright, so for the second element going to be discussed by Genevieve. You may proceed.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. The second element that I will discuss is about consideration. Consideration is when, at the desire of the promiser, the promisee or any other person has done from doing some things. There are 3 types of consideration. The first one is executory. Executory is when one promise is made in return for another promise. An example provided in illustration of section 2, clause A. A agrees to sell to B a bicycle. B agrees to pay 100 ringgit for it. And B promised to pay 100 ringgit is consideration for A's promise to sell a bicycle. The second type of consideration is executed. Executed is when a promise is made in return for performance of an act. For example, reward cases. Fatiha lost her wallet and offers a reward of 100 ringgit for anyone who found her wallet and returned it to her. Hakim found her wallet and returned it to her. Fatiha paid the reward 100 ringgit to Hakim. Hakim consideration for Fatiha promise is an executed consideration. And the last type of consideration is pass. Pass is when a promise is made subsequent to an act already performed. Refers to section 26, clause B. For example, A found B wallet and returned it to B. B promises to reward A for this act. A's act is past consideration. Regarding consideration, the first is must be sufficient but need to adequate. Sufficient means it is freely given without vitiating factors such as fraud. Furthermore, consideration must not be illegal and vouched. Lastly, consideration must be possible of performance. The general rule is agreement without consideration is void. However, there are exceptions to this general rule. It is stipulated under section 26. The first is agreement made on account of natural love and affection between parties standing in near relation to each other. Condition to be fulfilled. First one is expressed in writing, which may be in any reasonable form And the second one is it must be registered where a law exists requiring such registration. And the third one is it is made on account of natural love and affection between parties standing in a near relation to each other. The near relation is not defined in the Act. Usually, members of immediate family will constitute near relation. It depends on costume, social organization, and personal law of ethnic groups. Natural means reasonably to be expected regarding to normal emotional feeling of an human being. This feeling is ordinarily expected to arise from near relations. If either feelings or relation is lacking, then this subsection is inapplicable. It is an agreement to compensate for a past voluntary act. Two parts. And the first one is, it is promised to compensate either wholly or in part the other person. The second is, the promisee has voluntarily done something for the promiser. However, if the act was done at the request of the promiser, the appropriate law would be under Section 2, Clause D. Moreover, the agreement to compensate a person who did an act which the promiser was legally compelled to do. Lastly, an agreement to pay statute-bearer debt. Statute-bearer debt is a debt which could not be recovered through a legal action because of a lapse of time fixed by law. The time within a party must commence legal action to enforce its right limited by statute. For instance, 6 years is given for action arising from breach of contract. After allocated time expires, the aggrieved party can no longer sue to protect against suit.
Thank you, Genevieve, for the sharing. So the next element will be offer.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. The third element of a valid contract is offer. An offer or proposal is necessary for the formation of an agreement. Section 2, Clause A of the Contract Act 1950 defines offer as when a person signifies to another his willingness to do or to abstain from doing anything with a view to obtaining the essence of that other to the act or abstinence he is said to make a proposal. Section 2, Clause C of the Contract Act 1950 describes the person making the proposal as the promiser, and the person accepting the proposal is called the promisee. Two types of offer is specific offer and general offer. Example for specific offer is Mr. Amanda offered to sell his travel agency business to Miss Brenda. This offer is specific as it is made to Miss Brenda only. Next is general offer. For example, an offer made by Mr. A, the owner of Tawakal Travel Agency, Sundar Berhad, to award a free holiday package to anyone who is able to find his lost business diary.
Useful knowledge, Marian. I hope it could benefit you guys. So next is element of acceptance.
Section 2, Clause B define the terms of acceptance is when the person to whom the proposal is made signifies his assent thereto. The proposal is said to be accepted. A proposal accepted becomes a promise, and agreement comes to being calls the person accepting the proposal the promisee based on Section 2, Clause C. There are rules of acceptance. The first rule is absolute and unqualified stipulated in Section 7 Clause A. The acceptance must be made on the same proposed terms without any modification or variations. Any modifications or variations does not constitute acceptance but amounts to counter-proposal. The counter-proposal is treated as an rejection to the original proposal. For example, Hedy versus Wage. On June 6, the defendant offered to sell his estate to plaintiff. On 8 June, plaintiff made a counter-proposal to purchase estate at £9,950. On 20 June, the defendant refused to accept this offer. 2 days later, the plaintiff wrote to the defendant that he was prepared to pay £100. The defendant refused and the plaintiff sued for specific performance. The court rules that there is no acceptance because the plaintiff, later on 8 August, had rejected the original proposal, which could not be revived. The next rule is made within reasonable times stipulated in Section 6 Clause B. Section 6 Clause B. A proposal is revoked by lapse of prescribed of reasonable time without communication of acceptance. Reasonable time is question of fact depending the circumstances of each case. Example, nature of subject matter. The second one is method which offer is communicated. The last rule is acceptance must be communicated as stipulated in Section 3. Section 3. When the communication of acceptance is deemed and to be made by any act or omissions of the party accepting by which he intends to communicate by acceptance, which has effect of communicating it. Acceptance must be communicated to proposer for there to be a binding contract. Section 7 Clause B. Manners and mode of communication. An acceptance must be ordinarily communicated and in some usual manners. If no method of acceptance is prescribed. General rule. An acceptance is completely communicated when it is brought to notice or comes to the knowledge of offerer. Exception, postal rule. Section 4, Clause 2. Exception to the general rules of communication of acceptance where the parties use post as means of communication. The communication of acceptance is complete when against proposal, when it's put in transmission to him. The second one is against acceptor, when it comes to knowledge of proposer. Section 4, Illustration, Clause B. B accepts A's offer by letter sent by post. The communication is complete. As against A, when the letter is post. As against B, when the letter is received by A. Effect of postal rule. The proposer is bound to the contract when the acceptor posts the letter acceptance even though proposer has no knowledge of acceptance. When the letter is posted, the acceptor has put in a course transmission to him in such a way that he no longer has any control over it. The transaction is binding upon the proposer irrespective of delay or disappearances of letter of acceptance in the course of transmissions. Acceptance is complete against acceptor when the letter reaches and comes to the knowledge of the proposer. This means that the proposer is bound upon dispatch of acceptance by acceptor. The acceptor is not bound until it is received by proposer. For example, Adams versus Lancel. The defendants wrote to the plaintiff offering to sell wool on certain terms. The defendant, however, misdirected the letter and it reached the plaintiff later than usual. Upon receiving the letter, the plaintiff immediately posted his acceptance. The defendants, thinking the plaintiff was not interested, sold the wool to third party. It was held that acceptance complete upon posting. Rationale of the rule. Involved from reason of practical convenience arising from delay that is inevitable in delivering letter, on the grounds that the offerer who chooses to start negotiations by post take a risk of delay and accidents in the post. Acceptance also can be revoked. Revocation of acceptance based on Section 5 Clause 2. An acceptance may be revoked at any time before the communication of the acceptance is complete as against acceptor, but not afterwards. Revocation of acceptance made by post or mail.
Thank you, Genevieve. So last but not least is free consent.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. Free consent is the basis of a contractual relationship. Free consent is one of the most important essential elements of a valid contract. The term free consent refers to the meeting of free and fresh minds of two parties of an agreement of when two parties take and understand proposed subject matter and terms and conditions of the agreement in the same sense. It is free consent. Both of them must take things in the same way. They must not understand it in different ways. An agreement which is made freely, it becomes a valid contract due to presence of free consent of both the parties. Section 14 of the Contract Act 1950 provides consent is said to be free when it is not caused by coercion, undue influence, fraud, mispresentation, mistake. Consent is said to be caused when it would not have been given but for the existence of such coercion, undue influence, fraud, mispresentation, or mistake.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the useful knowledge from our expert panels. I hope that the information that has been shared by the panels will benefit each and every one of us in the future. I hope Babi Salah. I would like to thank everyone for the commitment given and thanks for spending time with us. That's all for today. Thank you and see you again.